We provide our clients with email address intelligence to help them get more out of their first party data, right? So in AtData, we're here to help our companies scale their marketing efforts, minimize their risks, and improve their bottom line. And we do that all by ensuring that the data they collect is accurate, complete, and connected.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Phil Davis, Chief Business Officer of AtData. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about AtData.
Absolutely, sure. So again, Phil Davis, I'm our Chief Business Officer at AtData. I've been with our organization for about 9 years. We recently, last year, rebranded as AtData. So we completed a merger with a company called Fresh Address. So it was Tower Data and Fresh Address merged, and rebranded as AtData. I joined the Tower organization 9 years ago when they acquired the company I was CEO of. I previously was CEO of Rapleaf, and then prior to that, I was president of a digital agency, and that goes back about 20 years of my experience.
Excellent. And
yeah,
tell us a little about AtData. What's the origin story of the company and what do you do?
yeah. Well, let me start with what we do, and I'll go backwards. So from what we do is we provide our clients with email address intelligence to help them get more out of their first party data, right? So in AtData, we're here to help our companies scale their marketing efforts, minimize their risks, and improve their bottom line. And we do that all by ensuring that the data they collect is accurate, complete, and connected. So that's where we stand. In terms of like our story and how we came to be, what's interesting is there's a number of companies that kind of came together to form today's AtData. But all of us, Fresh Address CEO and founding team, the Tower Data CEO and founding team, Rapleaf for that matter, we all started with a simple premise that the center of the digital identity is the email address. And then based on that central premise, we began to build solutions to help digital and email marketers do their job better and more effectively. And so for me, it was, I had an agency, did a lot of emailing for my clients. It was always about solutions I wish I had back then, right? And then as we've evolved and the industry's evolved and MarTech's evolved, we've added and sprinkled in additional solutions to help our clients.
Hey, you can't forget that the email address is that first piece of connective tissue, and you have to have great, clean data right there and extrapolate outwards from there. So you are speaking an important language in 2023.
Absolutely.
And how can the data that you guys capture help companies know their customers better?
Yeah, well, if you think about it, over time, customers are demanding a frictionless experience as they begin their journey, right? They don't ask 37 questions. They're often on a mobile device where the screen doesn't even give them that much room. And so really, at the end of the day, the brand is trying to make a purchase and collect the email address. And often the first interaction with a consumer is going to be a purchase. It could be a download of an app, a request for information, and all of that is completed with an email address. So a client captures an email address, and what do they want to do? They want to turn this prospect or first-time customer into a loyal fan, right? And in order to do that, they want to engage with them better. They want to delight them. They want to have interactions with them. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that first-party data they collect, which is just that email address, and we're going to start by making sure it's clean, right? Mm-hmm. If it isn't deliverable, if it's bad data, or if it comes from a fraudster, that's all a problem. And so the first thing we're going to do is look at that email address and validate that email, make sure it's deliverable. The second thing we might do for a client is take a further analysis of that email address and make certain it's not coming from someone who wants to commit fraud, right? Then we're going to look at data holes, right? So someone who comes to the website, there's some behavior they're able to identify. They could tell what product they were looking at, right? They can tell how much time they might have spent, what they might have read. And that's all interesting and really useful. But we provide household and demographic data tied to the user behind that email address so they could contextualize the behavior and better understand someone's motivation, not for their existing action, but how they might be predicted to behave going forward, right? And then the last thing we're going to do is complete and connect it across channels, right? So we can connect your offline channels to your online channels to your mobile channels. Right. And it's really important because the consumer journey isn't single channel. The consumer journey goes across all channels. So should your data.
Absolutely. And where does this data fit in that customer's journey?
Yeah. So if you think about the best place for it to fit in for much of what we offer, and we do have some re-engagement tools that we'll get to later, is the point in which the data is acquired, that moment of truth, right? So it's coming into their CRM. At the point of coming in, that's the time to clean it, complete it, and connect it, right? So early on in the journey, so that they can enable it and take action on that data, right, throughout other areas and opportunities in the journey.
Okay. And what makes your data stand out from your competition?
Yeah, so a number of things. You almost have to break down the services, because what's unique about us is we do a number of things that our competition might do one or the other, a few point solutions. What's unique is through a single API call, you could access everything I just described, right? And so from number one, just the sheer ease of one integration, that's really important. The other thing is we were built, when we think about identity, we were built for digital. And many of the players in that space were not. They're built for the direct mail world, the postal world, and they do things in batches. We provide our data in real time, right? So we could actually help our clients turn on real-time decisioning. So those are a couple of things that are very different. Then there's, other elements of data that's important. Accuracy, for email tied to just an email address only, we're exceptionally accurate. We are not perfect, but we're exceptionally accurate, and we will help you move your needle. And then when you think about just straight email validation, 3 great email validation companies came together to form AtData. And we are continually we keep moving the needle and making that product better, right? So we have unbelievable IP expertise, tremendous worldwide domain expertise. We have data science that sits in there. And so when you get an email validated, you're generally looking for a yes or a no. What you're really going to get is a yes, no, and a maybe, right? And you want less maybes. With our technology and our data science, we are able to give you less maybes, more yeses or nos. And so that's real value.
Ambiguous is a dangerous word in a digital age, right? We talk ones and zeros. Maybe doesn't account for much. So
sure.
What sort of companies are you working with? What verticals are you servicing?
What's really interesting is we help anybody who collects an email address. So all of our services are generally focused on B2C companies. So companies that are marketing consumers. When it comes to validation, we have domain expertise from a B2B. And so we have a number of large B2B companies that use us. But when you think about all the services, our ideal customer is a brand that's marketing to consumers, that collects an email online, and that's trying to drive a revenue stream through their website and their email program. And so it's very broad from a vertical perspective. A lot of retail, hospitality, a fair amount of nonprofit and political for that matter. Okay. And so You know, it's impressively broad from that perspective, but the core, makeup are big, broad enterprise brands that fit into those verticals.
Are you at liberty to share any cases to illustrate how brands are using your data?
Yeah, sure. Let me share use cases. Um, so our clients protect their privacy, and so we try to respect that. But let me give you a couple of use cases. Let's start with identity and understanding more about the user behind the email address, right? And so we have, and I'm going to go with the most simple use case because I love simple, right? We have some clients who take our data, feed it into an AI engine, and from that, they make decisions on which drip and what image goes in. But I want to give you a super simple one that only requires a little spreadsheet, and that's about it. And that is a women's retailer that I met with, and I went into the team. I was in their office, and they shared with me that their email program tends to only work with young women, which is not consistent with the industry data on email. And so it lended a lot of questions. Said, let me see, talk to me about your program. Let me see what your copy looks like. What's your images? What are you typically doing? And I learned a lot quickly. They were sending the same email to everyone in their database, and they made a few changes, send it up another email every single day. So from a frequency perspective, they were insane. Every day, no matter what, everybody got an email. But from a content perspective, they treated everyone the same. And what's interesting is that the image. So this was a women's clothing that generally women would shop at when they were looking for clothes for work. Okay. And generally women of all ages. Every one of the images they used were models who were 19 to 22 years old, who were size zeros, and who look incredibly young in their clothes, and look, they were very small women. And so, I began to ask them, like, do you believe that, when someone opens the image, the image was took up a lot of the real estate, right? I said, what do you think? How much time do you think somebody has when they look at that image to make a decision whether they want to even look further? It's seconds, nanoseconds even.
Sure.
And so I started with the hypothesis that image is not speaking to their audience. And they didn't disagree. And we appended age range to their data by email. So they gave me the email address and I gave them age range. And they segmented their list based on age range. They then used images because they had other models, and they do runway shows. They have a lot of other images they could use, and they began to use age appropriate images associated with the age ranges. Just that alone, nothing else changed, and they had a significant. And I mean, when you talk in terms of ROI, they were doing so poor in some areas that it's awkward to say that there's a 6,000% increase in conversion, but there was, because it was a drastic improvement.
6,000
for certain segments, absolutely, and more importantly, a paradigm shift for their team.
Sure.
Right. And I think that was probably equally important. But a super simple solution, right? I think another interesting case is we think about cart abandonment, right?
Okay.
Someone comes to your website, they go through a number of pages, they put something in the cart, and then they leave. We've got a lot of great behavioral data on that individual, right? But when you can marry that with just a few fields, and there's 7 fields that are universally useful, maybe not all 7 in every case, but it's some of these 7, and it's age, gender, location, marital status, presence of children, homeowner status, and income. And if I marry those fields with purchase and behavioral data, I can learn a lot that could allow me to do a much better job of speaking to that. And so in in these cases where, you know, we were able to help our brands get a much better message. And so let's think about cart abandon again, right? So you're a travel company, and we work with a number of travel companies, and you're looking at a vacation in New York. You get as far as the cart, and now you abandon, right? Well, we can't treat everybody the same way when you try to bring them back, right? And so again, images, right? I, I, if I'm that user and you use my demographics and my um, uh, age range, the fact that I don't have children in the home anymore, I'm married, like speak to me differently than a 25-year-old who's single, lower income. We're both interested in that same trip to New York. But there's different reasons you're going to get me back into the inbox, and use that data to increase your conversions.
Absolutely. Is there an AI component to your data?
So there's not. We feed data to clients who use their email service provider, their marketing automation machine. So if you think about Salesforce, they could feed the data to Einstein.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't. We're experts at the data and moving it really fast, so that you could turn on the tools that you've probably already paid for.
Gotcha. And in terms of those tools, what resources do your clients need to access your data and to engage with it?
So it's very little. We have a platform we call it Instant Data, and you create a login. And once you have an account, if you want to work in a batch environment, let's just say I've got 100,000 emails and I want to make sure they're clean. It's just like connecting a file, to an email address. It's super easy. You create your account, you click and post, drop the file in. It'll run back, give you a rate, you agree, you pay, and it comes back to you. And that's super easy. If you want to use our APIs, which is generally what you should do for real time, it requires a little bit of engineering from your team, because you need to tie in the data feed into the right place.
Sure. And what support do you provide for your clients?
Yeah, and so one of the things that's interesting is our Instant Data platform is pretty user friendly, but we pride ourselves in giving great customer service. And so when you're one of our clients, when you initiate a relationship or you get a welcome package, someone from our customer support team is going to introduce themselves, a person with a real name. And that person's there to help you through your onboarding process. And we're going to help you all the way through the process, so we can make it as easy as possible. Once you're set up, we set up quarterly calls with each of our customers to do a quarterly business review, so we could understand how are they best using it, and we could share tips and opportunities for them to, have best practices. So again, we believe in giving someone a white glove treatment experience. And frankly, there's nothing more enjoyable in our jobs than talking to our customers about how they're using our services.
I repeat, there are human beings at the end of all of these food chains, and when they are treated as such, things tend to move forward in a positive way rather than just being a line item on a spreadsheet, right? So I applaud you.
Absolutely.
Tell me, it's 2023. It's the year of having to tell your story to connect with potential clients. What role has content played in the growth of AtData?
So, it's interesting.
you.